Lorsque nous avons fait cette conférence il y a 10 ans, Laszlo Andor.
When we organized this conference 10 years ago, we invited Laszlo Andor.
Demographic aging, women's participation in the labor market, the conditions of migrants and their integration in the workforce, the quality of childcare which we can provide to our children. So all this came together. And interestingly, this came after 2012, which was the European Year for Active Aging and Solidarity between the generations. So we could demonstrate that this program is not ending. This is actually an opening of a longer-term effort.
Je crois qu'on était assez innovants sur les thèmes que nous abordions. Nous étions également.
I think we were quite innovative on the topics we were tackling. We questioned types of jobs in Europe. There were types of jobs that were more or less invisible, and Laszlo Andor at the time understood what we wanted to do in the end. And I know that during the conclusion of our meeting, he said to me, "We can't leave it at that." And I said, well, then let's create the European Federation.
I think a European Federation helps to develop a platform, a common European platform, and also structure a sector which otherwise is invisible. And this is very important because you have to give voice to people who otherwise feel a little bit marginalized, who have a weak position on the labor market, which also comes with vulnerabilities. Without this voice, the European policymakers may not listen.
On s'engage souvent avec beaucoup d'énergie, avec des équipes, avec des bénévoles, et il y a quelque part un objectif de sens et un objectif d'utilité.
Well, it is very important to pay more attention to the domestic and home care sector because already in many countries, institutional care has already been well organized. But this sector is lagging behind in many countries, and there are also great imbalances inside Europe because from Eastern Europe, for example, many people are moving to the West, and the shortage is obviously greater in the countries where people are moving away from.
Today's conference is obviously at the crossroads. So 10 years of the European Federation, finally, it's really a pretext, although it's very important. It's 6 months before the European elections, which will open a new legislature. Well, let's work on the recognition of these jobs, which are at the heart of the daily lives of Europeans.
Please applaud. And now it gives me great pleasure to invite Béatrice Levaux, the President of EFFE, to come and formally open the conference.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 10th anniversary of the European Federation for Family Employment and Homecare, what we call the PHS sector in Europe, the Personal and Household Services. EFFE 10 years ago, EFFE in 10 years. What is the future of this sector in Europe by 2030? What will it look like? In 2013, we organized a conference on this very topic, how to make sure that the demographic challenges is an opportunity for quality jobs in Europe. And I just wanted to pay homage to Laszlo Andor, at the time he was Employment Commissioner, and for his important role, and Pervenche Berès in the European Parliament, who also managed to mobilize and engage all stakeholders. So thanks to Pervenche Berès and Laszlo Andor, we already had sponsors for our organizations, high-level ones. Back in 2013, we also talked about the challenges related to the demographic evolution, but also non-declared work. We also underline the contribution of this sector to European citizens, for the European societies. There were millions, or rather thousands, of invisible workers taking care of children or the elderly, helping households in their daily lives at home, domestic and home care. This is what it's all about. Domestic and home care plays an important role and an increasing role in the European economy, with more than 10 million workers identified in the European Union. The PHS sector includes also the activities of what we call direct care, up to 53%, and indirect care for 47%. Its features are the following. There is a huge amount of undeclared work at home, 6.5 million workers formal for 3.5 informal workers. The members of EFFE, of its board, Andrea, Carmele, have been with us for the last 10 years. The team, dear Aude, well, we all come together to thank you for being here today, in presence or online. And I'm very surprised at how high the number of participants is. You have responded to our invitation. Why? Well, because you want to celebrate with us our anniversary, but also because you have to have a prospective approach. I want to salute the sponsors of this event, the European Parliament, the European Economic and Social Committee, under the aegis of the European Year of Skills. Thank you. Thank you very much to the 33, because I counted the 33 speakers who are going to share with us their vision in order to improve the daily lives of European citizens. Thank you to the representatives of member states, of the civil society organizations, of the European regions that are with us today. Thank you to the European Institute for Gender Equality. Thanks to your presence, you are a testament to the importance of the topic. And I'll give you back the floor, Tamsin.
I'm going to need you to take out your phones because we're going to ask you the first question on Slido. We feel that the issue of domestic and home work addresses everyone. Every family, every individual is touched. But the question we're going to ask you is, have you ever employed a domestic and home care worker? So we want to understand how universal is this issue that we're talking about. And we can see very quickly a response coming up that 70% of people who voted so far have said yes. So this is something that affects many families, many individuals. So we'll just let that run for a few more seconds to see how many people have experienced this. Childcare, care for elderly relatives, somebody with disabilities, somebody who needs extra care, maybe somebody who needs rehabilitation after surgery, maybe you need help in the home. Have you ever employed anyone in a domestic or home care environment? And we can see as more votes come in, it's consistent that more than 70% of you, so that's about 3/4, have at some point needed to use or employ a domestic and home care worker. And we've had more than 80 responses, and it's still around 70 to 30. So clearly, this is a very strongly recognizable experience for our audience here and our audience watching us online. So I'm going to stop that poll now, and there we've got it 70-30. So the next question that follows is, if 70% of you have employed someone in a domestic or home care environment, was that work declared? Because this is the key issue. You saw in that opening video the message from Laszlo that a lot of that work is undeclared, and how much of that reflects the reality that you have. So far, it's very even. About half of the people declared, and half of them were not declared. So again, I'll just leave that open for a few seconds to capture the messages from you. 70% of us have, at some point, employed someone in a domestic or home care environment. So far, half of that has been declared, and half of it has not been declared. So this gives us an indication of what we're talking about. There is a large, invisible sector. And throughout the day, the key issues of professionalism, social dialogue, and attractivity of that is going to be addressed, and we can see why. 3/4 of us have employed someone, only half of it declared. So thank you. I'll close those polls now. Marie-Béatrice, can I invite you to reflect on that? Does that reflect what you see as the sector?
Well, yes. It may seem very surprising, but actually it's not. Half of workers that work at home remain undeclared. This is really something that we also see at a European level, and it's really something or a challenge, of course, for European citizens. 70% of people here in the building, people online, indeed have hired some worker. Well, our European Federation is pleading or is working for the recognition, for the declaration of these workers. Now, you know that this is a pool of job creation in order to help the elderly that are increasing in Europe, but also to facilitate the reconciliation between work and private life, especially for parents and women. The Federation, the European Federation has indeed studied the situation, and we remain more than ever relevant. We were created 10 years ago in order to recognize indeed the role of these family employment, this home care, to defend social rights, the access to recognition of millions of workers in Europe, most of which, or many of which, are from a migrant background. 80% of them are women. The EFFE was created 10 years ago. At the same time, the European Commission recognized the PHS sector. EFFE, through many amendments to the legal text, we came up with a white paper, the social rights pillar in 2017, the directive on a better balance between work and private life, and more. That was 2019. 2021, the European Youth and Child Guarantee, and of course, the care strategy in 2022. Now, during this day, we want to define our vision for the next 10 years for the personal and household services, for the value to be given to all the workers in this sector, for their professionalization, in order to improve the daily lives of European households, in order also to come up towards the European institutions and member states to ask them that they accompany the sector so that it be more structured and is based on a true code of ethics. That is our program. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for listening. Thank you also for relaying our message tomorrow, as of tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam President. So let me invite our first speaker of the day. That's Annalisa Cotone, the member of the Cabinet for the European Commissioner for Equality, Mrs. Helena Dalli. She has a special message from the Commissioner for us. Annalisa.
Thank you. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, everyone, Madam President. So this morning gives me the opportunity to actually give you also an update of the where we are with the implementation of the care strategy, which we adopted last year. Care work is essential work. And we, at the latest, we realized that when kindergartens were closed during the pandemic, and where in care home institutions, the situation was very, very difficult. Essential work, but often undervalued. The conditions are not always matching the importance and the social value that we give to this work. There are certain groups, including what we heard it from the President, including domestic workers, face difficult working conditions and low wages. This is a sector which is dominated by women workers, 90% of care workers. So it's gender imbalanced, and it is impacted by labor shortages. At the same time, this is a sector which needs more workers and better conditions because due to the population aging, we will need much more of these services. So what we need to do is to build a sector which is resilient, attractive, and sustainable. And that's the objective of our care strategy, which we adopted in September 2022. it is an agenda to help the member states provide high quality, accessible and affordable services. And we focus on two particular sectors, the childcare and the long-term care. So what is it about? I would say I identify three key domains or principles of this strategy. First of all, it's about services. Second, it's about workers. And third, it's about social fairness and gender equality. Let me elaborate on this. So it is about services, because what we want and what we ask the member states to do is to ensure high quality, accessible, affordable services, and to align the provision of services with the needs of the people, and also to make sure that people have a choice, that they can really choose the care options or the setting that best fits their needs. The second principle is about workers. We need really to improve the working conditions and the pay in this sector. And for that, it's important to promote collective bargaining and social dialogue. We want to make sure that people working in the sector have career opportunities and they have the opportunity to have skills training, reskilling, because the sector is evolving as well. Coming back to the services, I forgot to say, this is also about high quality standards. So we encourage the member states to really have quality assurance mechanisms because this is important for the credibility of the sector and also for the needs of the people who need care. The third principle about gender equality, and of course working for Commissioner Elena Dalli on equality, I cannot forget to mention this. So care services are crucial for the reconciliation between paid work and care responsibilities. And we know that these care responsibilities fall for most of the part on the shoulder of women. There are 8 million women almost in the EU who are not working because of care responsibilities. So when we improve services, when we improve the working conditions of a sector made mostly by women, and when we provide work-life balance policies, we are promoting gender equality. We are tackling the low labor market participation of women. We are addressing the pension and the pay gap between men and women. So it is not too much to say that the care strategy is a cornerstone of our European Union social policy. Let me give you very briefly an update on some of the actions that we are implementing for the past year. So we are helping member states reform their systems. We have, for instance, technical assistance to member states, and we have a partnership with WHO. We have launched a new social dialogue committee for social services to bring together trade unions and employers and help improve the working conditions. We also have a coalition of stakeholders who commit to train their workforce until 2030. It's a skills partnership for long-term care. So the implementation now, with all this help from the European Union, is really in the hands of the member states. And I know in the audience there are member states representatives. So we work together with the national long-term care coordinators for the first time to really have a dialogue and help build the capacities of the member states. Next year, in summer, we will be waiting for information from the member states on how they are following up on this recommendation. To conclude, I want to mention that recently we also reaffirmed the importance of care services in our policy on demographic change. A couple of weeks ago, we have outlined our vision for how to manage demographic change, and the care sector is crucial First of all, to empower women and to reconcile work, paid work, with family responsibilities. And at the same time, the care sector is crucial to empower older generations to live a life in dignity, autonomy, and independent living. So I want to conclude by thank you all, and I hope that these principles I mentioned enrich the discussion today and in the future, and I am available, of course, to further discuss with you. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you very much, and particularly give our greetings to Commissioner Dalli for that message. Our next speaker is the Social Affairs Councillor at the Latvian Permanent Representation to the European Union. Let me invite Maxim Zivanovs to please come and make a statement. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So many pretty faces interested in care. I am totally encouraged to speak about this. My personal experience might be not so exhaustive, yes, regarding home care and domestic care is a bigger, might be bigger part of care area if we compare with long-term care. But in any case, during my 25 years of professional experience, I periodically faced a big challenge in this area, and it always was very interesting because, you know, if you're working with, for example, social insurance, you're working with big categories, with finances, yes, but if you work within the care area, it's always person-centered approach. You work with a human, and it is very emotional work. It is very interesting query already presented, yes, regarding these two questions, yes, so I could positively answer it on both of this, yes, so, but in my case, it was correlated with one project which I have managed few years in Latvia, and it was directly connected with the professionalization of informal caregivers. It is very significant, yes. It was correlated with the introduction of a special childminder service in Latvia, focused on parents who are working non-standard work schedules, working at night, in evenings, some shifted work, yes, so it's quite understandable that it's very difficult to find a suitable care solution when you're working on nights and you have shifted works, yes, so, and all traditional solutions in Latvia, kindergartens, they are working in normal working time. So it was the introduction of special childminder service, certified and partly dotated from the part of the state and municipalities, and it's covered 22 companies in Latvia with almost 30,000 of people, of employees, working non-standard time. So this project proved the significance of professionalization because 90% of all these persons were previously was informal caregivers without any knowledge in pedagogy, without any knowledge in children's safety. So it mostly was relatives and grandparents, yes, and in this project we certified them. We improved the knowledge in pedagogical terms on children's safety. We also gave him special possibility to the separate tax regime, yes, because they could be interested, yes, so, but it is a bit another question, yes. In any case, all these persons were integrated in the labor market and social insurance system. So this project proved also that informal caregivers, they're very interested in professionalization, in every possibility to give, to have additional knowledge on their work. But the another one project, it was correlated with a bit changing of paradigm, but because in some terms we have on the one side institutional care, and on the other side it's home care and domestic care. Yes, it's not antonyms, yes, it's intercorrelated areas, but in any case, when we are talking about moving of persons from institutional care to community-based services, it requires a bit changing of thinking, first of all, because you know, nobody of traditional of people with traditional thinking, especially, it might be correlated to Eastern European countries. They experience it mostly that, for example, people with mental impairments are living somewhere abroad, yes, in some institutions, yes. And then in this project, we focused on 3 main target groups as people with mental impairments, children with severe disability, and children of out of family care. Yes, moving them from institutions to community-based services, group flats, daycare centers, ensuring new kind of cares, intelligent, both in medical area, if we're talking about people with disabilities, and both in integrative aspects. So also in this context, both LTC services, both home care services were developed by developing personal skills of caregivers and also implementing some new kind of assistive technologies and some innovative care solutions. So on all these projects, and taking into account what was said also by Commission representatives, it's possible to resume that it is not possible to imagine modern care with diversified and person-centered approach. First of all, it is not possible to imagine this without digital technologies and without high-skilled care workers, definitely with ITC competencies, yes. All these things are impossible without digitalization. And digitalization, yes, it was a continuous priority, yes, but it also was provoked a bit partly by the COVID-19 pandemic. Yes, it was a big, huge challenge for all of us, but it's also provoked the development of e-health, of e-care, and participation also in the case of Latvia in many focused digital competencies projects, which is very significant for informal cares and formal cares, both in ensuring domestic care. For example, Care Plus project, yes, a project developed digital competencies both of care receivers, in case of this project it was old age persons, yes, and caregivers, yes, so some tablets were distributed among whole auditory, yes, it was approximately 500 people was involved in the whole project in many countries, yes. And then it was created also special methodics, how to develop skills, both of old age persons and caregivers, and it's improved, the result proves that their self-confidence and also ITC skills have been highly improved during the project. On the result of this project also the toolkit and special handbook was created, and it was also some long-term experience. So the rapid development of digital solutions also facilitated that many professional caregivers, both in Latvia and among the EU, are ensuring for old age persons, for persons with disability, very innovative technologies, and some, for example, warning technologies as falling sensors or some portable emergency buttons. So it is very popular also in Latvia. We have some big NGOs who ensure emergency alarm buttons for old age persons. So at any time, the person could just push button wherever he's situated, and then it is correlation with a 24/7 call center who could ensure immediately assistance and also back to home this person, keeping this person back to home, and some another assistance. So digitalization facilitated both challenges and very suitable innovative solutions in the area of care. I think that it is a main resource currently, which definitely could be improved. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very interesting to hear the experiences from your country, and particularly you addressed both the childcare and young children and older people and the long-term care. So thank you for that. We're now going to watch a brief video from Malta, and we have a message from Michael Falzone, the Minister for Social Policy and Children's Rights. Let's watch his video.
A good day to everybody. I would like to start first by thanking the organizers for giving me this opportunity to share a few thoughts with you, whilst I deeply excuse myself for not being able to make it in person. This year has been described by the European Union as the year of skills. We talk a lot about upskilling, we talk about reskilling, but there is another transition, not just the green transition, not just the digital transition, but a transition reflected in the demographic changes of our societies. We are living more, our care is getting better, so we have aging population. My country, we are nearing the 25% mark of people over 65 among most adults. If we go to the other end of the life cycle, there are always lesser and lesser births. And that puts challenges. We can reskill, we can upskill, perhaps we can even introduce those persons into the care sector, but I think hand on heart, we have to accept the fact that we, at least most of our countries, will need foreign workers. Foreign workers, which we need, foreign workers which are indispensable, but which can also create a lot of misunderstanding. We know we need the workers, but are we ready to integrate them? Are they willing to integrate themselves with us? It is a deep, I would say, it is a deep issue. But we need to look at them as a next important transition, because things are going, the home care sector and the in-residential sector will face great challenges. I once again excuse myself for not being there in person. I hope that my very few thoughts and brief will also help contribute to this conference's success. I thank you.
And we continue to hear our experiences from different member states. Let me invite Jana Skalkova, the Chief Political Advisor of the Minister of Labour and Social Affairs from the Czech Republic.
It's my big pleasure to be here, and I wish you a very nice day. As a mother of 3 kids and as a daughter of parents helping them in their last days, I know how important care is. And it's not about the service only, it's a question of the value, because care is bringing the value into the society. I will provide you very briefly on some activities which we try now to do as a big change of the services, home care services in the Czech Republic. As other countries in Europe, also Czech Republic is facing the eldering of the population, and we are thinking that we need 3 key activities. The first one, we need to put the concentration on the changing of paradigm, how society is thinking about the care. The second, but very important, is a changing of the law, because this is a frame, the base for the continuity, but also for the first step as a values in society. Last but not least, about the practice. So let me provide you these 3 areas. If we try to change the paradigm in society, we put the care and home care into the all strategic documents which we are now facing in the Czech Republic. Means, for example, a strategic framework for preparing for the aging of society, because it's not a question about the age, but about the quality of the life, about the security, and we try to really prepare the better condition for the older population. Opposite side, if we are speaking about the kids, we put the care into the National Action Plan for a Child Guarantee, and we try to prevent social exclusion of the children in need with the guarantee of school and education, care, nutrition and housing, and health care. Also, a very important part of the care is in the family policy strategy. And if we are speaking about the professionalization, means that care is a part of strategy for the development of social services in areas of comprehensive system of long-term care, the institutionalization, development of social services, and the development of social services in home environment. Legislation. Currently, we have 3 key areas. We are changing the Act of Social Services. Of course, the big question in finance. And probably as in other former Eastern European countries, we are challenging the same. we need to put more finance into this area. Also, it's closely cooperation with the municipalities and try to respect the needs the people in the area when they are living. So that's why we try really very closely cooperate with municipalities and help the IT system, because we need to collect the data and be able to react on the needs in the districts. Then, if we continue the new Act of Social Workers, it's the quality of the education, content of work of social workers, registers of social workers, supervision, and also, but very important, confidentiality. And probably is a specific area for the Czech Republic, but it's quite important for us currently. And due to good example from Sweden and Slovenia, we try to improve the personal assistance law, just to react for the individual cases and prepare most customized services. Very important is execution. So we try to cooperate very closely with the Ministry of Health, with the municipalities, just to prepare really clear vision of the services, to be close to the people which are in the difficult situations. I think my last part of the presentation is more oriented for the support of the informal caregivers. It was mentioned here many times in this morning. Care usually has a women face. And we believe and we know that it's a part of our life, naturally, not only once, but 2 or 3 times mainly. That is why important we need to support the informal caregivers also. So we prepared a special legislation for it, and it's not only supported by the benefits like long-term nursing care, care allowance or parental allowance, but it's a big priority also for the Ministry of Social Affairs to help the caregivers find the other services. Depends, of course, on the age which they are, but we try to support them in the growing of childcare services. And thanks to the European Union, we have many programs supporting the equal pay for men and women, react to the social fund in the area reconciling family in the work life, and we have special big project called age management. What is our local specifics? We try to each year organize the big conference called Family Policy Forum, and try to prepare special award, Career of the Year, just to show that it's really value for us, and we try to support everybody who is taking care. Doesn't matter if it's professionally or informally, it's a value for society. Thank you, and I am looking for our other experiences.
Thank you very much. And again, continuing our tour of member states, we now have a video from Spain, from Ignacio Alvarez Peralta, the Secretary of State for Social Rights from Spain. Let's watch his message.
Good morning. First of all, I would like to thank the European Federation for Family Employment and Homecare for inviting me to participate in the Domestic and Home Care EU Congress, and to congratulate them on their 10th anniversary. The Spanish government is firmly convinced of the need to transform our long-term care model to move towards personalized and community-based models throughout deinstitutionalization. It is an urgent and priority process because it responds to the legitimate expectations of elderly and disabled people who mostly prefer to live at home. To carry it out, it is necessary to address issues such as the quality of services, staff, and economic resources, but above all, we must place respect for people's rights at the center. It is up to the people receiving care to decide how and where they want to live, regardless of their age, whether they have a disability or a situation of dependency. In this sense, the European Care Strategy has marked a turning point in the way care is approached and has become the light that should guide us on our way forward. As the Spanish presidency of the Council of the European Union, we take a very positive view of this strategy, the content of which is strongly aligned with the national policies that we have been implementing. We are convinced that it will allow us to give care both the respect it deserves and the recognition of its essential role in sustaining our societies. For this reason, and as a sign of our commitment, the Ministry of Social Rights and Agenda 2030 and the Ministry of Equality, we're working together with 27 member states of the European Union to approve Council conclusions on care in order to further develop the European strategy. The Spanish government has taken important steps during this legislature. First, we have promoted an historic increase in public funding for dependency. Secondly, we are transforming the current services and institutions, establishing common quality criteria with the aim of moving towards a model based on a smaller and more home-like residential centers. In addition, and even more importantly, we are also increasing investment to promote home care services so that people who wish to do so can continue to live in their own homes. And we are developing a national deinstitutionalization strategy which will be a roadmap to achieve the transformation of the long-term care model in our country. There is no doubt that we are at a time when citizens are demanding a profound change in long-term care models. We must move towards a system that helps people and their families to live the life they want with dignity and in their communities. Let us learn the lessons of the pandemic and guarantee the right of all people to live a life of dignity and choice. I wish you a very successful Congress. Thank you very much.
And our next speaker is Marc Angel, a member of the European Parliament and Vice President of the European Parliament and long-time supporter of EFFE. You're welcome.
Thank you, Rose. Bonjour, bienvenue à tous.
Thank you and welcome to everyone. Welcome to Ms. Chairman.
Would like to first thank the organizers of this high-level event that brings together policymakers and civil society to make social Europe a reality, but also to make the Union of Equality a reality. And I'm a firm believer that these two policy dimensions, equality and the social dimension of Europe, are the best tools to promote and to preserve our democracy, because democracies are at stake also nowadays. So thank you for the engagement of everybody here in this room. Indeed, care services are of crucial value for our societies, both in terms of work itself and of meeting our objectives regarding employment, women's empowerment and gender equality. Assistance and care of the elderly at home is one of the issues that all European member states are bound to face in the years to come. Not only is it financially unsustainable to institutionalize the care of our older people, our elderly understandably also want to stay at home for as long as they are able to. Equally, assistance and care for our children is a key priority that our member states need to address and that they are addressing, and I also think that the European Union with the Child Guarantee is supporting them to do this. Childcare services are the necessary corollary to women's empowerment. We cannot continuously call for more women in the workplace and a better work-life balance without providing affordable and quality childcare services in all our member states. Let us not beat about the bush and say as it is, our economic system is based on a patriarchal architecture that needs revision. It is indeed well known that women are shouldering a heavier burden in relation to caregiving tasks, often as informal workers. On average, women spend 3.2 times more hours on unpaid caregiving duties, such as taking care of children and elderly family members, disabled family members. They are doing much more than men. And as a result, in the European Union, around 8 million women are out of the labor market due to care responsibilities, compared to only 450,000 men. And we need a paradigm change. And 2 weeks ago, we had in the European Parliament the Gender Equality Week. And in all committees, we were discussing gender equality. And we had wonderful experts of IGE. I see the chief of IGE here in the room. What was really striking for me and eye-opening for me, there was very little progress in what we could call couple equality. It's still women, even in a modern society, we think there's slow progress in more sharing this care duties in the families. And remember, now we are lucky to be in a meeting in a room. We are here, but we had for 2 years meetings online. And how often did you see a man speaker where suddenly children came running around? They were in their office quiet. And when you had a women speaker, you saw them in the kitchen, sitting in the kitchen, and sometimes a kid coming around and waving, and the speaker had to just make a little break and say something to the kid and then continue. This is the reality, and let's face it, remember these times. And therefore, I think we need really this paradigm change. It is time for a revolution to abandon outdated patriarchal and cultural customs, but also to reshape our economic model. Caregiving is a job, and I don't even like the word job. It's a work. It's work. And we need to value care work by providing fair remuneration and also good working conditions. And fair remuneration reminds me when I was shadow rapporteur of the Pay Transparency Directive, where we had many experts telling us the historically research why care jobs are often underpaid compared to other economic sectors, because for centuries and centuries women, or in hospitals, nuns, were doing this for free, and therefore, well, this is in their nature, so this is not, you don't need to be really skilled to do that. And therefore comes this under-evaluation, economic evaluation of the remuneration often in this sector. So to achieve all this, the care sector needs much more public support and also much more public investment. And let's call it with its name, public social investment. The COVID-19 crisis and the lack of investment in the care sector following the economic crisis that shook Europe in the early 2000s have shown the limits of our current model. We also missed an opportunity when we failed to make investment in public care a mandatory part of the European Union recovery and resilience efforts. Without investment in public care, accessible to everyone from early childhood to old age, it will not be possible to break the vicious circle of dependence on informal caregivers. It is time to recognize that caring for others is not just a noble expression of intergenerational solidarity. It is also a productive activity, and it's also a productive, economically important sector. And let's not also forget that the European Commission and the European Union is very committed in social economy, the Social Economy Action Plan, and it's with the Committee of Employment and Social Affairs of the Parliament. We visited Spain and other places where we see that also the social economy can be very useful when it comes to the care sector. But the care is most importantly a basic right and a public good that needs, again, as I said, support and investment. Dear all, we also need to look at the potential of the care sector itself in terms of job creation, sustainability of our public budgets, and its contribution to national wealth production. A large part of household services is still performed by undeclared workers. Without any clear framework for this sector, caregivers will remain at risk of social exclusion by being deprived of social benefits and protection. And studies have shown that the use of digital tools, the simplification of regulatory systems, but also the use of national incentives can positively contribute to transforming a large part of undeclared activity into declared jobs and to democratizing access to the sector for all. More declared jobs would be more valuable for our workers and our public budget. And that is why I believe that the European member states must strengthen their policy framework to deliver a sustainable system for the next generations. By regulating this sector, our member states must also develop domestic workers' skill. And we are at the end of the European years of skill. This doesn't mean that upskilling and reskilling should stop next year, but it is this year where we really have to realize how important this is, and especially in the sector we are talking about. Finally, and if you allow me, I would like to address the challenges faced by the European Union due to the situation at our borders and beyond. And as you will all agree, migration has been a decisive and a constant characteristic of our common European history. And our Commissioner, Ylva Johansson, when she talks about migration, she always starts with the sentence, migration is something normal, migration has always existed. And I think it was the Maltese minister, Minister Falson, who told us how important it is, considering the demographic challenges we are facing, that we use people coming to Europe to give them a chance here and to integrate them. And working in care, being with people, with locals, being together with locals, being in homes, what better way to integrate people? You are not isolated in a factory where there are 200 workers from your nationality or from your background, but you are in a village, in a town, in a street, in a home with people, and that's a fantastic way to integrate. Let's not forget that. I've already been too long. Just to recall you that in 7 months there is European elections. I really hope that the next European Parliament and the next European Commission will not put the care strategy into a drawer and forget it, but we'll put it on the desk, see it as a priority, use it, use also the exchanges you have here, use the input of the civil society, of you as a federation who know what is going on the ground in the 27 member states, in the cities, in the villages, in the institutions. Use all that knowledge and implement this strategy, implement it, and therefore it's not only the European elections which are important, but the 27 elections in member states are important to find allies to make this strategy a reality. And I would even go beyond this, because local elections are also important. If you have local representatives who want to have better childcare, who want to invest in infrastructure for childcare, for early childcare, if you have local representatives who invest in care for the elderly, who create possibilities to make life better for everyone, this is important. So I think, keep in mind, it's not only here from Brussels where everything is being decided, but you in the member states, you as civil society, you have a huge responsibility, and we need you to make this a better world. And Madame la Présidente, 10 years, 10 années, continuez le formidable travail.
I hope I will be here in 10 years' time, and I wish you a wonderful meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that call to action. Now, we heard from several of our speakers the important gender aspect, that the face of many carers are women, and particularly women of migrant background who come in to support us. So to tell us more about it, our next speaker is Charlene Schreler, the Director of the European Institute for Gender Equality. Charlene.
Good morning. Let me first thank the European Federation for Family Employment and Homecare for the invitation. It's a great pleasure to be here with you to celebrate a milestone moment, 10 years of your commitment and advocacy for domestic and home care in the European Union. Care is a topic close to the European Institute for Gender Equality. And for those who do not know who we We are the EU Knowledge Centre on Gender Equality. We collect data and information throughout the EU on gender equality in many different domains. And care, amongst other areas of life, is where we find some of the most prominent evidence of gender equality, or more specifically, gender inequalities. Over these years and beyond, care has not only been central to European political debate, but it's also become, and that's very good, a part of everyday discourse. And I think that we can all agree that the pandemic punctuated the discourse. And let me start off with an unexpected positive in relation to the pandemic. Ironically, despite the hardships that many people faced, the pandemic saw an unintentional, if momentary, reset of social norms in care. Because of lockdown, fathers took on a more active role at home and engaged more in childcare. At least, this is what we observed from the outside. The share of load was indeed better distributed. But I think we should ask ourselves, now that we are out of the pandemic, did those gender expectations in care really overturn? And secondly, did the pandemic offer some pause to think about how we can give around 7.7 million European women who are out of employment because of care responsibilities a chance to access opportunities? The pandemic certainly put a spotlight on the problem, but it didn't solve it. The approach of creating fairer care conditions requires a long-term view for long-lasting solutions. When the Commission, and it was already mentioned, presented the EU Care Strategy last year, it felt like we had been given a clear roadmap, taking us from a bleak to a bright future, with the promise of high-quality, affordable, and accessible care services. But unfortunately, there's big challenges, especially when we look at the gender gaps. It was already mentioned. And let me now give you a few striking findings from EIGE's survey data that we collected in 2022 amongst 60,000 citizens throughout the European Union. And I'm very happy to share these findings because it's basically an update of old data from 2016. And these striking data will give you a clearer picture. Given everything I have said so far, you may be surprised to hear me say that the gender differences are not that big anymore. Men's willingness to contribute more to care and housework is building up. In some countries, for instance, Finland, Sweden, and Belgium, more men than women perceive facing work-life tensions nearly every day. If we look at cooking and/or housework every day and compare it with 2016 data, gender gaps have indeed reduced considerably. However, and here comes the important point, gender gaps in care are slowly narrowing down, not due to men's substantially different role in housework, but rather women's lower engagement in such activities overall. Assisting technologies at home, food delivery services, or increased women's employment all contributed to this change. And remember, again, this was a survey. So we interviewed people. It was not a desk research, or we didn't look at data that were provided by governments, but we interviewed citizens. But now, when it comes to the more intensive childcare for smaller children, like bathing, feeding, and changing diapers, it's mostly taken up by women, regardless of factors like income, education levels, or migration background. Rather disturbingly, nearly half of women, 49%, living with a partner report assuming primary responsibility for these kids, kinds of essential tasks, compared to a mere 6% of men. The physical and emotional burden for women is high. Moving over now to long-term care, we see that female carers pay much higher economic price than male carers. Women are twice as likely to spend at least 5 hours a day on childcare and or long-term care compared to men. The intensity of care overall goes hand in hand with lower employment opportunities, reduced work hours, and lower income. And this cost is much higher for women than men. For some women, choices and expectations work against each other. And I know this because I recently spoke with a woman who told me that when she was a new mother, she chose to spend 2 years at home to be with the new baby. But just when she was excited and geared up to go back into the workforce, her mother fell sick. She's one of 3. Her siblings are brothers. And the expectation to step in and take a primary caregiving role fell directly on her. And this is a good time to bring up an aspect that wasn't mentioned yet, but that I really want to stress here. It's related to time use, and this is self-care. Self-care. Care for yourself. Social activities, relax, and do something you like. Here we see gender gaps to the detriment of women, which have increased in recent years. All this evidence points to a persisting trend. Mothers are under heavier pressure to adjust their working lives for care demands to the detriment of job prospects. That is why accessing services is key to reducing the burden of highly time-intensive informal care, especially for mothers, and closing gender gaps in employment. In the last 4 years, EU policies and legislation on work-life balance make a big step forward. At the EU level, it is important to ensure that the objectives of the Work-Life Balance Directive and the EU Care Strategy are meaningfully reflected in the EU's long-term budget, monitoring and evaluation processes to ensure effectiveness. At country, regional and local levels, it's important to increase investment and make better use of funding opportunities for the care infrastructure, especially in rural and remote areas, explicitly connecting them with gender equality objectives. Coming back to my point on the pandemic, and I'm wrapping up. It opened a window of opportunity to look at care differently. Care has become a central part of European debate. It's said time and time again, but there is a reason for reinforcing the need for ongoing commitment, dedication, and most importantly, maybe, political will. Words are important, but deeds are much more important. They make the difference. Political will is the cornerstone for meaningful and sustainable change. Thank you. It was a pleasure to be with you today. I hope today paves the way for promising payoffs for the next 10 years, and I wish you all success with your important work. Thank you.